The DNA results came. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely tear open the envelope. After weeks of pure hell, of her lies and my doubt, the words were right there in black and white. I was the father. This huge wave of relief just washed over me. I looked up at her, smiling for the first time in what felt like forever, and I said, "It's me, I'm his dad," but she wasn't smiling. And what she said next it destroyed everything. "I'm glad," she said, "but I am leaving. I am going back to him." This is the story of how my loyalty was repaid with the worst betrayal imaginable. It all started like some kind of fairy tale. I was 22, she was 21. Her name was Marie. We met through friends, and it was just instant. That cliche movie scene spark where the whole room just disappears. She had this incredible laugh and a way of looking at you that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. We fell in love hard and fast. 6 months later, we were living together. A year after that, we were married. My friends thought I was insane, moving that fast. My parents were trying to be optimistic. But I didn't care. When you know, you know. And I knew she was the person I wanted to build my entire life with. That first year of marriage was perfect. It was easy. We were just two kids playing house, but it felt so real and solid. We'd spend our weekends hiking, binge watching shows, and just dreaming about the future. We talked about everything: our goals, our fears, what kind of parents we wanted to be. We talked about our past, too. I knew she'd had a bad time with an ex-boyfriend before we met. She didn't go into detail, just said he was intense and no good for her. I never pushed it. That was her past. Our future felt so bright. It seemed pointless to look back. I felt like I'd rescued her from that she was safe with me. We were safe with each other. Then, about 18 months in, Marie told me she was pregnant. I was over the moon. The idea of starting a family with her was everything I'd ever wanted. I was going to be a dad. We started planning right away, turning the spare room into a nursery, picking out names, going to every single doctor's appointment together. Every night, put my hand on her belly and talked to our baby, telling him all the things we were going to do. Our perfect life was getting even more perfect. The first crack appeared during a routine checkup. It was a tiny comment, something that shouldn't have meant anything. The doctor was looking at her blood work and mentioned her blood type was O negative. I am A positive. The doctor, just making small talk, laughed and said, "Oh, O negative, universal donor. But with you being A positive, you two could have a baby with just about any blood type." I laughed. But Marie, she went completely still. I looked over, and all the color had just drained from her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. In the car on the way home, she was dead silent. I kept asking what was wrong. She just stared out the window. It wasn't until we were back in our apartment that she finally fell apart. Through these gut-wrenching sobs, she confessed. A few months back, she'd had a weak moment. She said she was feeling overwhelmed, that everything with us had moved so fast, and she felt lost. And in that moment of weakness, she'd seen him, her ex, the intense one. She swore it was a one-time thing, a stupid mistake she regretted the second it happened. She said she was drunk and he was manipulative, that he just showed up when she was out with old friends I didn't know. It happened right around the time we conceived. She was sobbing, telling me how much she loved me, that it meant nothing, that I was her world. And then she dropped the bomb that shattered everything. His blood type was also O negative. Suddenly, that harmless comment from the doctor was a ticking time bomb in our marriage. There was a chance the baby, our baby, the one I'd been talking to every single night, wasn't mine. My world just stopped. The floor opened up and swallowed me. I felt everything at once: rage, heartbreak, confusion, and this deep, physical feeling of betrayal. The life I thought I had, the man I thought I was, it all felt like a lie. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eye for months, letting me fall in love with this baby, knowing he might not be mine? The anger was like a fire in my chest. I wanted to scream, to break something, to just walk out. But then I looked at her, a complete mess, crumpled on the floor. She was pregnant. And through all the noise in my head, one thought kept cutting through. What about the baby? I thought about all the promises I'd already made to that little life, whether he was biologically mine or not. I had already accepted him. He was my son. I made a decision right then that would lead to my greatest heartbreak. I told her I wasn't leaving. I told her we'd get a paternity test when the baby was born. But until then, I would stay. I'd support her. I would be there. Because that's what a husband and a father does. I chose loyalty. I thought if I just did the right thing, I could hold our family together. I had no idea how wrong I was. Those next few weeks were the longest of my life. Our home stopped being a home. It was just this tense, silent waiting room. We were like ghosts, just moving around each other, with this massive, unspoken thing hanging in the air. Every time I looked at her belly, a war would start inside me. One second, I'd feel this overwhelming love for the baby. The next, I'd get hit with this cold, bitter resentment. Was I rubbing lotion on my wife's stomach while she carried another man's child? The not knowing was a special kind of torture. Marie, for a while, seemed to be trying. She apologized constantly, leaving little notes around the apartment saying how sorry she was, how much she loved me. "You're a better man than I deserve," she'd write. "Please, don't give up on us." And I wanted to believe her. I clung to the hope that the DNA test would prove the baby was mine, and we could somehow fix this. I started Googling like a madman, looking for some hope. The numbers were all over the place. Some studies suggested that many couples don't make it, while others said reconciliation rates could be as high as 60-75 if both partners were committed to therapy and rebuilding. That's what I clung to. I was determined for us to be one of the success stories. But as the weeks went on, something changed. She got more distant, more secretive. She was always on her phone and would flip it over or hide the screen if I walked in. I'd ask who she was talking to, and it was always just my mom or a friend. My trust was already gone, so my mind started filling in the blanks. I started watching her, paying attention to the little things. I hated it. I was a detective in my own home. The breaking point came about a month before her due date. She said she was going to a movie with her friend Sarah. A couple hours later, Sarah called our landline, asking for Marie. My heart just sank. She'd lied to me. I waited up, the anger and anxiety just building and building. When she finally walked in, all smiles, asking about my night, I just looked at her and said, "Sarah called. She was looking for you." The smile just melted off her face. The mask fell. She broke down, but this time it was different. It wasn't just a one-time mistake anymore. She admitted she'd been talking to him, her ex. She claimed he was just checking in, wanting to make sure she was okay. She swore it was nothing physical, just talking. She said he was being so sweet and supportive and that she was confused. "Confused?" I yelled it. The word just echoed in our silent apartment. "You're confused? I'm the one who stayed, Marie. I'm the one here every single day waiting to find out if I'm even the father of this baby. And you're talking to the man who might have destroyed our lives? The man you told me was abusive?" She cried that I didn't understand, that he had a hold on her. She started describing their old relationship, and for the first time she used the word abusive. She talked about how he'd break her down and then build her back up, making her feel like he was the only one who could ever really love her. She was describing a classic cycle of abuse, but I didn't know the terms then. I didn't know about trauma bonds, this powerful, unhealthy attachment victims form with their abusers. It is not logical. It's a bond created by fear and occasional kindness that makes it almost impossible to leave. But knowing that didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. All I saw was the woman I loved choosing to get comfort from the guy who was tearing us apart. She was defending him, making excuses. And in that moment, I felt like I was the bad guy. I was the obstacle. My loyalty was just an inconvenience. From that night on, I stopped pretending, focused only on the baby. I went to the appointments, I helped pack the hospital bag, but I felt hollow. I was playing a role, the devoted husband, the expectant father. Inside, I was just a man waiting for a verdict that would decide the rest of his life. I was counting down the days, not with excitement, but with total dread. This story is just, it's insane, and it gets even crazier from here. If you want to find out what happens next, and you appreciate this kind of raw storytelling, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You want to miss the end of this. The day she went into labor was a blur. At the hospital, I put on my game face. I held her hand, coached her breathing, told her she was doing great. For a few hours, I almost forgot. I just saw the mother of my child, and my instincts to protect her kicked in. We were a team again. We were a family. And then he was born, our son. The second I saw him, this tiny, perfect little person, everything else just melted. The anger, the resentment, the doubt, it was all gone. I looked at him and my heart just cracked wide open. I loved him. It didn't matter what a piece of paper said. I knew. He was my son. I held him. He wrapped his tiny fingers around my pinky and I just started to cry. Tears of joy, of relief, of a love so big it knocked the wind out of me. Marie and I looked at each other, and for a second, there was this shared sense of wonder. We made him. In that quiet hospital room, I actually felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe this new life would be the glue that could put us back together. A nurse came in and discreetly took a cheek swab from me, and a gentle one from the baby. She told us we'd have the results in a few days. Those few days were surreal. We took our son home. I was on paternity leave, so I did everything. I changed diapers, handled midnight feedings. I just sat for hours holding him, searching for my face in his. Marie was recovering, and she was a good mom. Attentive, loving. For a short, beautiful moment, we were a normal family. We didn't talk about the test. We didn't talk about him. We just focused on the baby. The email came on a Tuesday morning. The subject line was just, paternity test results. My heart started hammering. Marie was in the shower. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the screen, my hand shaking as I moved the mouse. This was it. I opened the PDF. It was all scientific jargon, but I scrolled right to the bottom, to the part labeled interpretation. My eyes scanned for the words I had been praying for. The alleged father is not excluded as the biological father of the child. Probability of paternity? 99999. I read it again and again. He was mine. He was really mine. This massive, shuddering wave of relief washed over me so hard I felt dizzy. It was like I'd been holding my breath for months. I put my head down on the table and just cried. But this time, it was pure vindication. I wasn't crazy. He was my son. I stood up, my legs wobbly, and walked to the bathroom. The printed paper clutched in my hand. I was beaming, grinning like an idiot. I couldn't wait to see her face, to share this, to finally close this nightmare chapter and start our life. The shower turned off. A moment later, she opened the door, a towel wrapped around her. She saw the paper and her face went blank. The results came, I said, my voice all thick with emotion. I couldn't stop smiling. It's me, Marie. I'm his dad. I expected her to run to me, to hug me, to cry with relief. But she just stood there. Her expression was empty. She looked from the paper to my face, And there was no joy. There was only resignation. She took a deep breath. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but the words hit me like a physical blow. "I'm glad," she said. "I'm glad he'll have a good father." A beat of silence. "But I'm leaving," she continued, finally looking me in the eye. "I'm going back to him." The smile just fell off my face. The relief, the joy, all of it just evaporated. It was replaced by this cold, numbing shock. I couldn't process it. It made no sense. "What? What are you talking about?" I stammered. "We won. He's mine. We can be a family now." "No," she said, shaking her head as tears started to fall. "You don't get it. He needs me." "He needs you?" My voice was rising. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Your abuser? The man who drove you to do this? He needs you? What about your son? What about me? I stayed. I was loyal to you. And I'll love you forever for that," she sobbed. "You are the best man I've ever known, but I can't do this. I'm not strong enough to be the person you deserve. With him, it's a mess. But it's a mess I know. I can't explain it." But I was starting to understand. This wasn't about love. It was about that trauma bond. She was choosing the familiar chaos over the stability I offered. The pull of her trauma was stronger than the promise of a healthy love. She wasn't choosing him over me. She was choosing her trauma over her own healing. And my loyalty, my choice to do the right thing. It suddenly felt like the stupidest mistake of my life. The DNA test didn't save us. It just confirmed I was the father of a child whose mother was about to abandon us both. She was gone by nightfall. There was no big fight. There was nothing left to say. It was all just horribly quiet. While I sat in the nursery, numb, just rocking my son, she packed a bag. She didn't take much. She came into the nursery to say goodbye. She kissed our son on the forehead, tears falling on his face. She looked at me, her eyes full of pity and shame. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, and then she was gone. I heard her car start. I heard it drive away. And then silence. A silence so loud it hurt, broken only by the soft breathing of my newborn son in my arms. I just sat there. For hours. The sun went down. The room got dark. I didn't move. My world had been turned upside down twice. First by the affair, and now by this. This felt crueler. The pain was a physical ache in my chest. My self-worth was just shattered. I did everything right. I was honorable. I was loyal. And I was left alone with our baby while my wife ran back to her abuser. The next few days are a blur. I was a 23-year-old single father, running on caffeine and adrenaline. My parents were lifesavers. They swooped in and basically kept me and my son alive. My mom took care of the baby. My dad took care of me. He'd just sit with me for hours, not saying much, just being there. I couldn't talk about it yet. The grief was so big I was afraid if I started crying, I'd never be able to stop. Marie would call sometimes, usually late at night crying, saying she missed our son, that she'd made a mistake. I could sometimes hear him yelling in the background. It was the sound of that cycle she described. A few times she asked if she could come home. And for a split second, my stupid heart would leap. But then reality would hit. How could I ever trust her again? How could I bring that chaos into my son's life? The trust wasn't just broken, it was gone. A few weeks later, I did the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I hired a lawyer. I filed for divorce and for full custody. It felt like a final admission of failure, but I knew I had to. My son deserved stability. He deserved a home free from all that toxicity. He deserved at least one parent who would always choose him. The legal battle was ugly. Her ex coached her, trying to paint me as the bad guy keeping a mother from her child. It was textbook manipulation. But the facts were on my side. I had the apartment, the stable job, the support system. And most importantly, I had proof that she chose to leave her child to return to an abusive situation. The court saw it clearly. I got full physical custody. She got supervised visitation. Today, my son is a toddler. He is my whole world. He's bright and funny, and he has my smile. Being his dad is the single greatest thing in my life. We have our routine. We have our life. It's not the one I planned, but it's a good one. It's peaceful. I've spent a lot of time in therapy, trying to make sense of a betrayal so deep it feels like it changes you. I've learned a lot about trauma and codependency. I've come to understand that Maria's choice wasn't really about me or my worth. It was about her own brokenness. She was trapped in a cycle she couldn't break, and I was just collateral damage. You can't save someone who isn't ready to be saved. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone in that same all-in naive way again. The scars are there, but I know that what I have with my son is real. It's pure. I was loyal when it mattered most. And in the end, it didn't win me the girl, but it did make me the man I am today. It made me a father. And that is a victory no betrayal can ever take away. This whole journey has been incredibly painful, but it led me to the greatest love of my life, my son. It taught me a hard lesson that doing the right thing doesn't always give you the happy ending you think you deserve, but it can show you who you were always meant to be. I am a father, and I am enough. I'm sharing this because I know I'm not alone. If you've been through a betrayal like this, if you gave your loyalty and had it thrown back in your face, how did you make sense of it? How did you learn to heal and trust again? Tell me your story in the comments. Your experiences matter, and they help the rest of us feel less alone. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe for more stories like this. Take care.